Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Connecting Dots podcast. As usual, I'm your host, Usama, and today we are very excited to be bringing you another very cool personality from the city of Ottawa. Today we have Sarah joining us from Fellow.app, and she's the head of customer success management over there. So, in the upcoming conversation, not only would we be getting to know her role a lot better, but we'll also get to hear the story of origins of Fellow.app as well. So, with that, I formally welcome you to the show, Sarah. How had your day been so far?
Thank you so much for having me. It's a Saturday, so it's been lovely.
Excellent, excellent. So, first of all, before we go any deeper in the conversation, first of all, I want to hear the story of Fellow. I went to the website, the UI is exciting, it's very nice, but I want to hear from yourself what are the origins of the startup essentially?
Great question. So, Fellow is a startup by the same founders that I used to work for at my previous company. And so it was a really nice experience being able to work with them again. And how Fellow started was with two people out of Invest Ottawa. We had some office rentals there as we were incubating and just getting started. And we actually tried a few different ideas first before they started expanding the team. And they really settled on this meeting problem because it's so painful. And there wasn't anything in the world that was like this tool. So they worked really closely with Shopify. They were the very first customer of Fellow, and they basically were looking to make sure that there was a good product market fit. So once they figured out how much Fellow could help, then we started expanding our customer base, and it just really took off from there.
So, in your opinion, how have you seen the startup scaling up? I mean, the reason I'm asking the question is that based in Ottawa, how favorable were the economic conditions, or even considering the incubators that we have here, how favorable was it to actually make headquarters in Ottawa and have it scale up here instead of any other big city?
We love Ottawa. Ottawa's wonderful, and there's so much tech here. And it's what they say is the Silicon Valley of Canada. So it definitely has all of the infrastructure needed to support a growing startup and help it to scale. We work really closely with Invest Ottawa, and we also have support from our VC firms, which are not located in Ottawa, thanks to a remote culture these days. But yeah, we've definitely
Yeah.
been really supported here. And then Aiden, my CEO, and one of our co-founders, he's also part of a group of founders based out of Ottawa, and they've all helped to support each other through all different kinds of companies, different stages of growth. So having that community in Ottawa to help us scale has been so important.
Initially, when the product was in very, very initial stages and it wasn't that mature enough, how do you guys pitch it to the customers? Because it's maybe a two-faceted question that, first of all, you need to understand and be perceptive of your customer needs. But then as a startup, you need to grow yourself as well, and you need to be out there, pitch to customers. So how did you guys take that challenge early on that, although you're new, but you guys are very confident, how did you guys prove yourself to a lot of customers?
We really started from a marketing content perspective, and a lot of the content that we were putting out there was around not only meeting management, but around management in general. And so that helped to establish us as a expert in this space, especially around one-on-one meetings. That was really our gateway into all other kinds of meetings. And one-on-ones are so important. They're important to success. They're important to personal and company-led growth. And so that's really where we started, and we helped to build our expertise there, and it really started to grow. But I would say that one of the most important catalysts, and I think you'll like this, is our podcast. Super Managers is a podcast that Fellow runs, and that's been a really great place to not only better understand our customers, but also understand management and different best practices, how people are running their meetings at other organizations. And that's helped not only our product to grow, but us to also help other people with their company growth through management.
So if I were to ask you about the role of the head of customer success at Fellow, so what are the general responsibilities that comes with the title, and what are the general expectations of someone who's executing in such a position?
So starting with my role, I actually manage three different functions. So I manage our support team, I manage our implementation team, which is our customer onboarding team, and I manage our customer success managers. So that is what the role entails at Fellow. But customer success really means something different everywhere that you go. So it's any combination of those three things. And sorry, what was your next question there?
So, first of all, it was about the role itself. If you were to break it down into very simplistic terms, that what does the role entail? Like for someone who takes on the position, what are the general expectations from someone, and what are the responsibilities that come with it? So, as you explained that you manage so and so teams. So then my other question was that now that you are successful in the role, what is your leadership style like, or what's your management style like?
Human first. I think that's so important. And being able to help my team grow, being really honest when it comes to feedback, but in an empathetic way, being able to deliver that as early as possible, and just being able to give them the right information to make decisions wherever they are in the organization. I think that's all important elements of management, but it all rolls up into that human first approach. Yes, everyone has to work for a living, but we all have needs and emotions and different things that make us tick as well. And so that's really important to get to know your team, build that trust with them. And I would say that's my management
Nice.
style.
That's pretty good. Of course, empathy first, and we should be perceptive of our employees' needs and their ambitions as well. Other than that, I wanted to ask you about the roles that you had in the past. Right after graduation, you graduated from Carleton, right? So after graduation, what kind of roles that you took, and then how did Fellow came into the picture?
So, right out of school, I was really interested in startup culture because I was looking for a place where I could grow really quickly. And so, while it wasn't a startup, SurveyMonkey had an office here. And I knew someone from school who had referred me in, and I ended up interviewing with Aiden, my current boss.
Nice.
So, all of the same founders that were previously there, they had actually just sold their last company to SurveyMonkey. And so I got the opportunity to work with them there, a few of my other current teammates. And so it was a really great time to get to know the team and get to know tech in general. From there, I moved on to a company called FullScript, which is in the health technology space. I started off in sales and I wore a few different hats over my years there. And then Fellow really started taking off. And I knew that they were going to start growing very, very quickly. And so I said, hey, what are you looking for next in terms of your next hire? And at the time, I was actually interested in product. And they said, hey, we've worked with you before in a customer service, customer success type of function. What would you think about joining our team and leading that function? So I built out our first onboarding flow for Fellow, customer led onboarding and growth. All of that was really important for us, really at the beginning, for sure. And being able to pass feedback on that customers were sharing with us was also really critical. And that really was exciting for me. It's something that I really enjoyed. And so I said, absolutely, cannot wait to start.
Right. And for someone to be successful in such a role, in your opinion, what are the key competencies that one should have?
Empathy, first and foremost. So that's really important because you need to be able to meet customers where they are. You need to deeply understand their problems and why they came to you in the first place. And you need to be able to prove out your impact. How do you map what you're doing and what your software does to the actual problems that they're facing within their organization? And then how do you go a step beyond that to help them to grow, to scale, and grow with them as well?
Right. And the other question that I want to ask is maybe just opening up a little more on the previous one, is that for someone to be in such a customer centric role, firefighting, I think, is very common in a lot of different companies, that you need to face challenges and whatnot. And that's fine. I understand that, because you need to deliver a product no matter what in an agile way. But in your opinion, as a startup now that you guys started from scratch and built something solid, so in your opinion, how important is to design a good product first so that there is less firefighting and maybe more of talking to the customer in a way that what features would they want, how can you add more value to what they already are having at that point of time? So what would be your thoughts on that?
I think firefighting is inevitable in a startup,
It will
really.
happen no matter what.
And especially really early on as you're putting out an MVP. So you're putting out the basic amount of features to service the audience that you feel is going to be the right fit. And then you listen. Once you have that out there in the market, then you start to listen to customer feedback. And to your point, that's when you start to build out features that they're really excited about and you start to grow. And once you really tackle one segment, then you can kind of expand into other ones as well, which is what Fellow started to do.
And since you guys have started building a product and you guys have really big names on your website as well as your customers, so in this particular vertical, do you guys have any other strong competitors at this point in time?
Oh, that's a great question. So, unfortunately, a few of our big name competitors closed last year. And
That's tough.
yeah, it was
Yeah,
really sad to see. But at the
yeah.
same time, those customers had a need for a similar tool. And so we had the opportunity to work with them after that. So, yes, there's some up and coming names for sure. But the landscape has definitely changed over the last couple of years.
Right. So, Sarah, tell me a little bit more about Fellow. Do you have any cool traditions at work?
I love that question. That's one of the most fun parts about a startup is that you get to create really cool traditions. So I think that one of my favorite is we have a town hall every single Friday and we make shout outs a really big part of that. So everyone, no matter what your title is, we open up the floor and you get to give a shout out to whoever really helped you out that week, who made a really big impact, and we always tie it back to our values. It's definitely one of my favorites.
Right. And while I was so interested in listening to your story about Fellow, that I totally forgot to ask you, where are you guys located in Ottawa?
Yeah, so we're located out of the old Shopify headquarters right
Hmm.
on Elgin. We've got a co-working space there right
Uh-huh.
now. Yeah,
Right.
but we are
Yeah.
remote first, so we are spread out all across Canada.
Excellent. And as far as growth is concerned for startups, in your opinion, how important it is to, and even for someone like you who's working in a very customer centric role, how important is it to understand cash flows and economics other than technology?
Oh, from a leadership perspective, I think it's really important because you're helping to guide the company. So, understanding what a bull market looks like and what a recession looks like and the impacts that that could have on your company, I think having a general knowledge of that is really important to help guide your team. But if you don't have that knowledge, that's also okay. That's why you have other team members. You're also there to learn. And so that's the great part about working in a team is that wherever you have weaknesses, other people have strengths. So I've actually learned a lot about that working at Fellow where I wouldn't have had that knowledge before.
Right. And at the company, do you guys have yearly check-ins, quarterly check-ins, like yearly reviews for employees? So how do you guys do it? Do you guys do it every quarter or every year?
We do it biannually, so twice a year. And we have a really fun process where we do 360 reviews. So, what that looks like is that not only do you review yourself, your manager reviews you, and then you also get peer feedback. So, that all helps to form that 360 view of different areas that you can improve upon.
That's
And
nice, actually. I never heard about that before, like
no,
the peer dating, but that's nice. You can hear an honest verdict about yourself from someone who's more experienced, and I think that's interesting. Other than that, I wanted to ask you about feedback as well, and I saw you posted a bit about this on LinkedIn as well.
Mhm.
In your experience working at different roles at different companies, how should one give feedback to people? And the reason I ask is that, in my opinion, feedback should not have any emotions attached to it. Even if, let's say, you don't like someone, but still, feedback needs to be given where you are just talking about that one thing that, if improved, would be really good for someone instead of just attaching your emotional self with the opinion. So, in your opinion, how should, as a manager, how should one do that?
I think feedback should be delivered and received as a gift. It's you have that person's best interests at heart, and so you also need to deliver it with empathy. Give them enough room to explain where they're coming from, explain where you're coming from, and just have a conversation about it. Approach it in an empathetic way, make sure that you're understanding each other, and it's also okay to not agree with that feedback as well. But I think it's important to still have that conversation because other people will see your blind spots where you might not.
Right, right. That's very interesting. And as far as new hiring is concerned, other than recruiting full time as a startup, do you guys look for co-ops as well?
We do, yes. We
Yeah.
recruit from UFO and Carleton.
Hmm.
Algonquin, I believe we've chatted with a little bit as well.
Nice.
And some of our co op students have actually become full time employees and are
Oh,
some of
that's the
our
best thing
best
ever. Yeah,
employees.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's nice. But in general, what do you guys focus on when you hire interns? Because of course they're only there for a year, and if things go well, they become full time. If not, they get to do something else in life. But in your opinion, as a manager or as a leader, when you guys are recruiting these people, what do you want them to experience at least in that 1 year? Do you guys focus on more of a diverse approach where they can experience different rotations, having different experiences? Maybe they can work with design, they can be in some customer meetings, just for understanding how does the entire workflow look like? Or is it more, I would say, depth first approach, where they are assigned to in a specific team and they get to work over there for the entirety of their engagement with the company?
I would say it's a depth first approach, and that's because we mostly hire in either engineering or marketing when it comes to co op and or interns. And so that's the skills that they're looking to grow. And within engineering, for example, we might give you some full fledged projects to work on once you're ramped up a little bit. And then it's really exciting for them to be able to say, hey, I launched a full feature at so and so company. And so that's great experience for them that they can take anywhere. But of course, we hope that they would want to stay at Fellow as well. And so I think the cultural element is also really important there, making them feel part of the team, supporting them through their accomplishments, because that's such a foundational age and opportunity that it's really important to build them up in every way possible.
Other than the company, what are your core values as a person?
As a person, I would say determination is one of my core values. Empathy, absolutely, as well. And integrity, I think, is really big for me too, because that's all you have as a person. You have your reputation and what you stand for. And I think that that is really important to how you view the world and how you are perceived in the world.
Excellent. And other than that, how do you keep yourself up to date with the changing trends in the industry? Considering you guys are a startup, but you guys need to roll out new features as well for the customers.
In my role, I listen to customers often. I love having different chats with them. I love reading their email feedback, their chat feedback, anything that I can get. I love to take in all of that information and then find patterns in it. So, that for me is really important from a continual education perspective, but also taking different courses, connecting with people within different peer groups. I think that's also really important to kind of gauge not only what's going on in our particular industry, but what my peers in other industries within the same function are experiencing too.
Excellent. In terms of courage, working at a startup is not easy because it's a startup, it's not a full-fledged company, right? So at times situation becomes very unclear in terms of your future direction, growth, and funding as well. So in your opinion, how motivated are people who are working at a startup, and how do you guys deal with failures?
Ooh, I think failure is necessary. And I think as long as you're approaching it with a growth mindset, it's something that you want to learn from, then it's never a bad thing. And you take small bets, you take big bets, and you're going to learn something from either of those. But you tend to make more smaller bets than you do big bets. And so
Yeah.
failure tends to be a lot more okay for those types of things. But it doesn't mean that it's not okay to still fail for those big things as well, because you're always going to learn something.
Very nice, very nice. So now that we are reaching the end of our conversation, Sarah, I wanted to ask you about students who are still at university or people who are early in their career. At that time, there's a lot of uncertainty because sure you're working at somewhere, but then you're not sure if that's what you want to do for the rest of your life. So, in
Hmm.
your opinion, for someone to really attach themselves to a certain vertical and go from there and not get derailed, what are your thoughts about that? If you look back at your career now, looking at the switches you had, the roles that you worked in, so what would be your comments on that?
I think it's really important to understand what your strengths are and where you want to grow And I also think it's important to find something that you're interested in. And what's really interesting in certain applications is that you see people's hobbies combined with their skill set, and you find that happy medium that combines the two in a startup setting. And I think that that's where people become the most passionate in the startup space, is because it's where those different passions meet. And so I would highly recommend looking for something along those lines. The more specific you get, the better opportunities that you have.
So with that, I guess that's end of the questions that I had for you. But honestly, I had a great time having you here, and thank you so much for sparing some time for being here with us. And as far as our audience are concerned, if you like the content, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe, and show your support by buying me a coffee, to which I'll provide a link in the description as well. We really hope that you get a certain value out of the content, and you can make better decisions for yourself. So with that, this is your host Osama signing off, and I will catch you in the next episode. Bye.